Today I'm working with tubes of paint in Artrage on the iPad. Hi everyone, Steve Elliott here again. Still loving the iPad and working on that. I'm really getting a little bit obsessed with trying to produce a painting with as few brush strokes as possible, or not so much a painting but an object or a person or whatever the subject is, and want to sort of describe it in as few brush strokes as I can. So I thought, let's use these tubes of paint to get in like sort of local colour, then use the palette knife to blend them out and try and keep it as minimalist as I can, but still recognisable as the subject matter. So it looks like I'm putting plasticine on there, doesn't it? Sort of. I used to love plasticine when I was a kid. I couldn't get enough of it. But it always ended up brown, didn't it? When you used to mix it all together, it would always be brown. Anyway, I'm sort of losing the plot. So I get the colour on, and then I'm just sort of smearing it out, and then I'm pretty much using tubes of paint, the palette knife, and the thick gloss oil brush. That's it. Those are the three things that I use for this painting. And I'm not too worried about exact shapes. I just want to get a representation, and I want you to look at the painting and think, that's a flag. And you know it's a flag, and you know it's draped over a pole loosely, and it's done with as minimum amount of brush strokes. I'm not blending away to get creases and folds and shadows in there. I want to try and do it with as few strokes as I can. And the old painting, this probably took me 2.5 hours, I think, from start to finish. So it was a pretty fast painting as paintings go. And I think I certainly didn't overwork it. I did keep those brush strokes to an absolute minimum. And also, what I have to say is here, now I'm doing the background, using the tubes of paint to squirt the paint onto the canvas and then blend it out with the palette knife. The shapes that I made with the palette knife became the sort of background. I didn't have to start thinking about painting the detail in. It just appeared like magic. So that was really cool. I didn't try too hard to get the all the shapes in exactly the right place. You'll see that sign isn't exactly as it is in the painting in the photo. I think the deal was my canvas wasn't the same aspect ratio as the photo, so I thought, I've just run out a little bit of space at the bottom. I thought, that doesn't matter, it still works, it's okay. You'll see here in actual fact that I've got that sign really white, and the sort of the people are in a quite light colour. And much later on in the painting, I decide that sign is dominating. So it's one thing you've got to watch out for, that you don't make something, because it is in the foreground, that you don't make something that is secondary to the painting and could in actual fact be left out, that you don't make it a dominant feature and your eyes are drawn to it. So I create another layer here for the figures, because I want to make sure I've got them in the right place, and putting them on a new layer, I can just use the eraser to get them out if I want. I can resize them and everything, and it just makes the whole job a little bit more controllable. And then you'll see there that all those thick paint lines underneath the figures are disappearing, because I go into the layer below it and I use the knife just to blend them out. And then I'm thinking, right, these are now too loose. I need to sharpen them up a bit and put a little bit more detail in there. If you can call it detail, I mean, I'm not putting eyes in or features and fingers and things like that. And I'm just sort of barely putting hands in and arms and things, sort of really keeping it as loose as I dare, but still sort of recognisable as human beings, and those hopefully are recognisable as children. You'll notice on the photo I blurred out the faces, by the way, because I don't know these people, and I thought, they're totally oblivious that some random guys took their picture and put it on YouTube. I didn't think that was fair, and I'm sure there's probably some sort of law against that. So I just fuzzed them out. I thought I don't need the faces, so I'm just going to blur them out. And so that's why I've done that, really. So I'm going back into the flags, and again, it's really quick. The old painting only, like I say, took about 2.5 hours, so I was working really fast, and I'm just sort of making a stroke to very consciously making strokes here and there to get those folds in the flags and things, and every stroke on the ground or the shadows or the people, they're all really thought out. Quite, sort of, I didn't rush it, but I wanted it to be minimalist. I didn't want it to be lots and lots of tiny little brush strokes, or even lots and lots of bigger brush strokes. I just wanted to see if I could do it with as few strokes as possible, but still be totally recognisable as the scene of the train museum in York is the location of this painting. I also like the way the painting's cut in two by that sort of blue pole, and then the young boy who's standing right beneath it continues that cutting of the painting in two, and his colours on his coat are sort of reflect the colours or echo the colours in that post, which I thought was a really nice feature. And another thing, when I come to paint this pushchair, it dawned on me that it's actually a disabled pushchair. And for a split second or two, I toyed with the idea of changing it to a regular pushchair. And then I thought, why? Why? There's no logic to why I would do that. So I kept it. Not that you can actually tell it's a disabled pushchair. I guess I'm hoping it looks like a pushchair, but you wouldn't probably ever know that it is a disabled chair. I don't know why I'm rambling on about that, really. It's not relevant. It was just thoughts that were going through my head when I was painting the picture. I then sort of start fiddling about, well, not fiddling really, because you can still see that it's really loose, but I start putting in the detail as I saw it as the detail, but again, really wispy strokes. And I love the way that Artrage, you take a brush and put it through some more paint, and it drags through that paint and takes the colour with it. That's a really nice feature. So working on the young boy, just putting in sort of odd stroke here and there. I really liked his pose as well. I thought it was a really cool way he was sort of walking along. The dad, I assume that's his dad. I struggled with his face for quite a while, and I felt like I was painting a robot or definitely a robot or some sort of half human, half android type being. I don't know why, it just felt that way, and it took me quite a while to get his head exactly how I wanted it. So you can see I am taking the time to shape things and change it, but still with, you know, minimum strokes of the brush really. I'm just sort of refining it and fine tuning it. I really enjoy doing this bit actually, doing this sort of thick stitch coat that's draped over the chair. I got a bit of a buzz out of doing that for some reason. I don't know why. I did think once I finished the painting and I'd loaded all the videos up for making the actual video, and then I looked at the finished painting and I thought that the young boy at the front and the young and his dad are totally dominated by that sign which I mentioned earlier. So I loaded the video back in again. Sorry, not loaded the video. I opened the Artrage up and I went back in and did quite a bit more work. So it was way after I signed it. So I signed it, and at this point I uploaded it. Well, I just did this bit of work in the foreground, and it's coming close to completion now. But I uploaded it like this, and then I was looking at it as I started to make the video, and I thought, it's not right. These two characters should be the focal point of the painting, and they're totally being dominated by the people in the background and this sign. It was all too light. They just sort of merge in with everything. So I felt that I needed to, first of all, mute back that sign, so knock the colours out of that, and also knock the colours out of the people in the background. I'm just sort of doing a little bit of detail work on the background at the minute. But now here you go. You'll see I'm starting to put some highlights in the clothes. So making them quite a bit brighter, and then knocking back the colours in the people in the background, making them more muted. And then again, I do the same on the young boy. I lift the colours on that and make them brighter, and then knock that sign back a little bit more. So that kind of brings them forward. So that is it. That is my painting with as few brush strokes as I could manage. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, a big thumbs up as always is much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I have lots of videos like this, and I would love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye.